Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 222 of the Civil Gore Podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. And we got a fun show tonight. We have a cool interview with someone that I've always been a fan of and it was always looking forward to getting to talk to. Jessica Lynn Parsons. People might know her through many of her things. She does, do acting in movies, TV commercials. She's on one of those Dungeons & Dragons role-playing games. What do you call those, Tim? Those, when they do like a whole, Kevin and Amanda's friend does one of those. It's like where you play Dungeons & Dragons, but then you do a video of it, and they all play through it.
Yeah, it's like a tabletop session. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, there's like a name for it, but yeah. So she does one of those. She's been doing that for a while, so definitely be fun to talk to her about all that stuff. And so we actually paired a good movie tonight with it called The Bunker Game, brand new on Shudder. It's about a kind of I guess LARPing gone wrong. Is that a good way to describe it?
I don't know how you describe this movie, but we will discuss that in depth.
We'll try our best to describe the movie.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get right into it. This is our first chop. All right, Brian, so I watched one that also just recently came to Shudder. This is an older film. This is from 1981. It's called Siege. It was originally known as Self-Defense.
Oh, Tim went for the AKA.
Yeah, I don't know why I decided to watch this. Maybe it's because it was only like 86 minutes, and I thought it might be a quick watch. But I really like this one. So the premise is... Now, first of all, let me start this by saying this is very much of its time, and I was terrified going into this that this was going to be like a lot of 80s movies, very cringy in terms of political correctness and its lack thereof, because it involves a group of guys during a police strike. There's a police strike in Canada, which is actually based on a real police strike, I found out. But so the police are on strike. The criminals are running rampant, and these guys decide to go to this gay bar and bully the homosexual patrons of the gay bar, right? So all of a sudden, I'm going, oh my God, a movie like that in 1981, this is going to be pretty cringy.
Yeah.
But, and there is, I will say, if you're easily offended, there is a lot of homosexual slurs in here. At least at the front of the movie, but it's all by the bad guys. Like, these guys are really, really despicable, so it's kind of to be expected. But anyway, so they go in there to attack this gay bar. They're just kind of bullying them, roughing them up a little bit, and one of the thugs accidentally kills one of the patrons. And so they kind of panic, because these guys are kind of...
They didn't really want to kill him. They just wanted to kind of bother them.
They kind of wanted to bother him and scare him. But these guys are kind of like the Keystone Cops of the criminal. They're really just imbeciles. And so they decided to call their fixer. And it wasn't Julie this time. It was this guy named Cade.
Yeah, I don't think she'd support that. I know I know she would not support their behavior. So
no.
That she is not. Her services are not available to them.
So they contact this guy named Cade, and is it Cade or Cabe? It's one or the other, Cade or Cabe. But he's like Mr. Wolf from Pulp Fiction. He's that kind of guy. So he comes in, he's like, oh God, I gotta clean up after these guys. Well, his method of cleaning things up is just to kill everybody in the gay bar. So he's just gonna leave no witnesses.
I guess that's efficient. I don't know. Right?
So he starts killing everybody execution style, which is absolutely horrible. But one guy manages to break free. And I'm telling you, this is not really spoiler. This all happens in the first 5 minutes of the movie. So this one guy
he is efficient then, Mr. Wolf. He comes in, right? Yeah.
Well, so this guy breaks free. He escapes, and he runs to this apartment building. And inside this apartment building is a man and his girlfriend, and they have some... there's some students there that are blind. I guess they kind of mentor these kids that are blind. and a whole host of people in this apartment. And so he runs there to escape, and the bad guys decide to surround this apartment. Remember, there's no police because they're all on strike. So the bad guys decide to surround this apartment, and they're going to take out everybody because they've got to kill this guy because he's the witness to the crime. So you've got like these 7 or 8 thugs, Mr. Wolf, and all these guys that are trying to like lay siege to
I love
this
how we just
apartment.
dubbed him Mr. Wolf. No matter.
Yeah, I'm just
what.
going to name him Mr. Wolf. It's Cabe or Cade. I can't remember which one. And it maybe it's both in the same movie. I don't know. But what plays out, what the movie is basically like Home Alone, where these people trapped in this apartment now have to like rig up weapons and stuff out of homemade things. They have one gun with 2 bullets. That's all. And then everything else has to be like improvised, and basically have to figure out how to survive the night during this siege of these terrible, despicable people. So it is actually really, really entertaining. And I will say the only flaw I had with the movie was the woman in it is, unfortunately, like a lot of early 80s movies, completely irrelevant to the entire plot. Basically, her only purpose for being in this movie is to whine, complain, make bad decisions, and act panicked and scared the whole time.
Yeah,
so
well, you know, as an avid listener of like me of Kim and Ket, they always bring that up. When they get that '80s film, they're like, "Well, yeah, she was only there for this." It's true.
Really,
it was, and it's a shame because there's a lot of great '80s actresses. And
I really thought that there would be a point in the movie where she really like kind of comes into her own, and that maybe all this was a setup for her to like get her redemption, and that never happens. This is typical 80s.
You were 40 years too late. Early, sorry, 42 years too early for that to happen.
But if you can overlook that, and if you can overlook the homosexual slurs that are at the beginning, which are, again, I don't excuse it, but for the purposes of driving the plot forward, it was it's kind of trying to show how terrible these people are. It's really an entertaining movie. I thought it was fantastic. It reminded me like of a thriller version of Home Alone, and now I wouldn't call it really horror. It's definitely more in the crime thriller bucket. But definitely check that one out on Shudder. Siege, 1981. Really, really interesting movie.
I will. So, I'll go through first. I'll go through my Amityville project. We'll get that out of the way. So I moved on with that a little bit to the next one. I did the Amityville Terror. So I'm at the year in the year 2016 in this Amityville watch thing. And the funny thing is, I literally was updating my chart this week, and I realized there's still like at this point movies that I have not seen yet, and ones that are in production. There's still like 58 left.
I can't believe
what did I get myself into?
I cannot believe that.
And
I would have never in a million years.
And you've seen it, right? You have access to my chart because I put that in the shared drive, and it's insane how many. The last 2 years alone, there's like 25.
That's insane.
Yeah, including that one in there. I thought Amityville Vibrator was going to be the end all, but did you see the one in there? It's what was it like? Amityville Poo, Killer Poop 2. Really? Really? I mean, come on. And then there's Amityville Bulldozer. I don't even now they're getting into construction equipment. I mean, come on. But anyway, I'm not there yet. So this one actually kind of at least go back to what I'd like to refer to as like one of the better bad ones. Because this one actually they try and like totally channel the original kind of spirit, no pun intended, of the films, where it's like a family the guy moves his family into his the house with his sister who's inhabiting it in Amityville, although I think this Amityville is kind of located in California. I'm not even at this point already, that's such a nitpick, I'm not even gonna mention anymore.
Yeah, it's like the least of your worries with these.
Yeah, but this one actually, at least like I said, it still tried to like kind of kept the spirit of the original. The house is possessing kind of people in there. There's the typical Amityville scene where a brother and a sister kind of inadvertently get together in this one, I'd like to say. It was kind of a shades back to Amityville. What was it 2, The Possession, I guess. And then there's but then there's this whole town about a side plot about the town in there. But this one's actually watchable, though. That's the thing. The others are some of them are just, as I've mentioned before, just unwatchable. This one, at least, is not unwatchable. And I have seen this one before. I had caught this one where it was early on before I took this project on, and I was just randomly watching an Amityville movie when it popped up on one of the streaming services, and this had popped up and I watched it. So this one, Amityville Terror, I think it has another name too. It might just be Amityville Terror, some of them, but either way, this one's on Tubi. It's definitely not the worst, I can tell you that. Not actually, far from it at this point. And then with the 58 to go, including Amityville Bulldozer, I can't imagine this might even make the top 20. I don't know. But yeah. So then another thing I watched was it's funny, I bought it, but I was watching it already on Tubi when I had ordered this, which was The Deeper You Dig, which is the movie before Hellbender that the extremely talented Addams Family did. It's got the same cast, and they helped. And this time, actually, the daughter, who was the younger daughter, Zelda Adams in Hellbender, was actually a co-director on this one. And she stars in it. The whole family's, except I think the sister that played the friend in Hellbender, she was not in this, but the other one did, and it's definitely a really cool, creepy, supernatural tale where I'm gonna read the actual synopsis because I don't want to inadvertently give anything away from by talking about the my interpretation of the plot. So I'm going to read you to the official synopsis of it. So that way, this was the official approved synopsis. So it says, in the aftermath of a roadside accident, the line between the living and the dead collapses for a mother, a daughter, and a stranger. So that's all I'll give you. But it is typical, which is becoming a trend for this family. They find a way to take stuff that, that's a plot that we've seen in other ways and just add this realism to it. No matter whether it be supernatural, be witchcraft, they just find a way to do things in such an amazing way that it just, I'm captivated by it both times, both movies that I've seen from them so far. And, it's just, again, that great performances by the family. And, to know that they're writing and directing and starring in this thing, it's even more impressive. And I think, Tim, you'll really like this one. It's actually also on Tubi now, which is good. So you can catch it on Tubi, but I ordered the Arrow version because it was on sale. Amazon matched the Arrow sale, so it's like $20. I got a good Arrow edition of it, which actually contains the Hellbender music videos on it.
Oh, cool.
So I think when this came out, I think Hellbender was being created or done, so they actually have some of those as the special features. And I think there's 2 versions of the film on here as well. So yeah, I'm going to definitely dig into this disc, though, because I was very excited to get one of those. As soon as Hellbender's available on Blu-ray, I know I'm going to add that to the monolith because I'm putting any Addams Family film that I could get on there. And I don't mean the Addams Family with the 2 Ds. This Addams Family, this is always going to have a place in the monolith because I just love what they do. They are so talented. And so, yeah, I'm definitely check that one out too, Tim, because I know you're a fan of Hellbender as well. I think you'll absolutely love this one. Does some great, cool, haunting imagery and stuff. And it even has 2 of my things that 2 of my freakouts, and I was so impressed in the movie, it didn't even faze me. So that if that's not a telling of how good this movie was and how much I enjoy their films, there's nothing more than that, right?
That's right. All right, well, let's get to our interview. This is our interview with Jessica Lynn Parsons, who you guys may know as an actress, also does some great role-playing videos on YouTube, and I think you guys are really, really going to enjoy this interview. All right, everybody, we have with us tonight the incredibly talented Jessica Lynn Parsons. And first, we would like to welcome you to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So for our listeners that may not be familiar with your vast body of work, can you tell us about yourself and some of your career highlights, I guess?
Well, I think you guys know me from the Dungeon Run, which is a Dungeons and Dragons show every Wednesday on Twitch. I'm also an actor, so I've been in shows like SWAT and Scorpion and House of Lies, and I have a couple of features that are out on Amazon Prime, and a couple of commercials that were out last year. So stayed busy, until the pandemic hit.
Yeah, that was tough. And it's funny, I actually remember Scorpion because that used to be one of my favorite shows, and it didn't even like dawn on me until I saw your reel that was you in that sequence, because I remember that episode, but I didn't I didn't put two and two together because back then I didn't know Dungeon Run wasn't around, so I didn't know you there, but that was interesting. And that's perfect because that's kind of like I refer to you as a Jess of all trades, actually, because you've done so many things, movies, TVs, like you said, the commercials. So out of what's your favorite out of those? Like, and do you prefer drama versus comedy, or?
Yeah, I definitely prefer drama, I would say, but I do a lot more comedy. So I don't know. I don't know if I can have a preference until I've done a lot more of both, but um I mean, SWAT was really fun because I got to shoot real guns. There were blanks, of course, and they had, the the actors that were using the guns were actually the stunt coordinators, so everything was super safe, but that was just a blast to be able to do. And then the dungeon run, of course, is a dream job, especially when we're in the studio.
Yeah, that one's cool. We definitely have a good some questions on that coming up. And so it's funny too, because in you say it's like you like the drama first, but some of my favorite stuff you've done is comedy. Actually, like that. Like I think I messaged you about that one little video you did with the ding dong or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one just cracked me up. I'm like, because I think you just have a good natural talent for the comedy.
Well, thank
But
you.
so that's interesting though, that that's good that you like the drama. I mean, I think you do good at both, so I think no matter what they put your way, you're gonna kill at it, so that's
Thank
good.
you.
So Jessica, I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. So one of our favorite roles of yours is when you do the like Xbox versus PlayStation videos.
Oh, yeah.
So do you actually have a preference of one over the other? Like personally, me, I'm a PlayStation and Xbox guy. I always have all the systems. I don't pick and choose. Do you have a favorite?
I've always been PC, honestly, so neither. But I grew up with a PlayStation. So my original console was a PlayStation. That's where I played, the original Tomb Raiders and Crash Bandicoot and all those good older games. And then I had an Xbox, but mostly game on PC. Definitely fully PC.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had to switch to, I mean, I was a PC gamer most of my life, but I kind of had to switch back to PC because my kids took over the consoles. So it's the only place I can game now.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, we have a little gaming group, and we're always like trying to get Tim in there, and he's always like, well, I could do it in about an hour.
or only if it has cross play, maybe I can do it. Yeah. Do you have any favorite games, especially favorite horror games, since we are a horror podcast?
Yeah, got to put that in there.
Oh, well, right now I'm playing Elden Ring, which I don't think is categorized as horror, but I know that the Souls games in general are quite horrific. So there are elements to it that definitely are horror-esque. I just met two maiden husks. They're just like corpses of maidens, and a lot of the imagery is quite dark. I play a lot of Dead by Daylight, just got into Back for Blood. I love the game Alice Madness Returns as far as a horror genre. I think it's really, really gorgeous. And I have the art book for that too, because the thought and the detail that went into making that game, as beautiful as it is incredible.
That was kind of an underrated one that I don't think a lot of people necessarily know about.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't see a lot of people playing it.
Yeah, I saw you play the I think I saw once. I think I was on Twitch. You did one of the Back for Blood one. I saw like you played that.
Yeah, I just started that one.
Yeah, we might have to like message you like later to explain to us how, because we've all tried to play Dead by Daylight and it just ends horribly all the time. We like die in like 5 seconds. I don't know what we're doing in it.
Wait, which one? Back for Blood or Dead by Daylight?
Dead by Daylight. Well, Back for Blood, I mean, we die quickly, but at least we know what we're doing. But Dead by Daylight, I feel like we are so lost. And like Tim is, I mean, we're all gamers. Tim's like a really big gamer. And like, even he's like, I can't figure it out. I don't know what what we do differently.
Well, when I started playing it, I was told there's a pretty big learning curve, but I think it's just sometimes you get lucky and you have a killer who's not that good, and sometimes you get really unlucky and you have a killer who's really good at their job, and they will hunt you down, and there's nothing you can do about it, you know.
Yeah, we were much better at the Friday the 13th game. I think that one we managed to be a lot more skilled, especially when our friend one of our friends gets stuck playing Jason. He gets really angry, and we totally know how to hide from him, so he can't get to us.
Oh, there
So
you
that's
go.
that one's kind of fun. But so of course, as you mentioned before, so where at least where I really discovered you was from Dungeon Run. Of course, where you play Fahima. I can't, they say it a million times. It's Tag. Is it Tag?
Tig.
Tig. Okay.
Tig,
Yeah. And so,
Irish.
true. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And like you have the accent in there sometimes. So it's like, of course. So for those who aren't familiar, because I try and explain this to people, like when I was saying how I was watching it, they don't quite get it. So for the people that don't the newbies that might not understand, like explain what Dungeon Run really is, because it's so entertaining, but like I think I'm not doing it justice when I try and explain it to people.
Well, it's hard. We're hitting 115 episodes next week, and that's a lot of content to try to explain. 3 to 4 hours each episode. That's a lot to summarize. But we describe it as a epic, interactive, family-friendly adventure. The characters range from a beach gnome to a Catman to a warlock to my character who's a girl made out of fire and does fire spells, and a lot of our story and plot is focused on the heart, lessons, empathy, choices, and how choices matter. And I think that's what makes it resonate with a lot of folks, and why it's been really important for them to be a part of our story, especially through the hard times that we've had in recent years. I think it's very community driven as well. We have a very strong community who comes together and can influence the game, and there's a lot of support for those who watch the show. And so the community aspect of the show, because it's online, because it's live streamed, unlike other TV shows, that's been a big draw for a lot of folks too.
Yeah, and I remember when I'm like kind of like I started watching from the beginning, but then I jumped onto the new stuff because I wanted to kind of be know what was going on. I think I'm an episode behind now, but I remember when you started, you literally were in a studio and you had this massive like gaming table that would make anyone jealous, this whole thing, and then of course with the pandemic hit, like everything, people had to adjust, and I think you guys did such an amazing job adjusting for that. But now with the by doing it on, like, I guess it's Zoom or whatever kind of format you use. And what I think what's so appealing is that because you guys are so good into it, like, I mean, the acting level and the emotion that brings out, like, it doesn't matter if you're together in format or virtually, because I think that's you're right, the story is so important. And Tim, I don't know if you've watched a lot of episodes, but like, if you ever want to learn how to be a dungeon master, you got to check out Jeff Kanata. He does that.
Oh yeah, he's a master. I mean, it's his story that he completely homebrewed. It's very close to his heart, and like you said, the show is very performance centered. It's sorry, my animals are fighting. My cat and my dog.
Oh no.
They like to play fight at the most important times.
It's okay. We're pet owners. It's okay.
It's very performance centered. All of us are actors. Some of us are voice actors, primarily before gamers. And that helps us bring a lot of depth to our characters. And we really have a lot of intentionality with the story arc of each character. And we, over the years, have grown really close in real life too, not just as, cast members who were hired together. Now we're all close friends, and that really helps us listen to each other and give each other gifts and set each other up for success, and each other's comedic moments, and give each other that space to have the dramatic moments and the deep moments. And my favorite parts of the show are when it actually just happened a couple episodes ago, you probably caught it, but there's a comedic scene happening between two characters, and then there's a dramatic scene happening between the other two characters. And we kind of at this point have seamlessly been able to pop back and forth between those two scenes and kind of give the drama some comedic relief and then give some contrast to the comedy. So yeah, it's those moments are magic.
Yeah, because it got really like, it got really intense and dramatic to the point where I'm like looking at the thing like what's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next? And it's like this essentially it's a role-playing game, but the drama and the storyline is so good. And it's like, the people like Ron Ogden, right? Like all I could think see him as Uggo, he's like Uggo to me. It's like, and it's like he's gonna get typecast now as Uggo. But and I know there's some changes coming, but I don't want to go into too details for people that are trying to catch up, because I know it's sometimes, people could be a few episodes behind if if they don't get to see it live. Like I rarely get to see it live. I usually watch the replay, but yeah, it is like it's such an impressive thing, and I like that fan interaction, because everyone likes, it's like those old days with the chat rooms, or like, Tim and I being horror fans, they have a lot of tweet alongs, for horror movies and stuff. So it's kind of like it kind of has that feel to it, where, but what obviously, like you said, though, you can interact. Like I guess you can send gifts to people in the game, right? And
yeah, so originally you used to be able to purchase forces of good and forces of evil cards, and there would end up being a lot of them, and they were sort of little cards of chaos, like in the Hunger Games when you got to drop a gift off, kind of what you were saying. But since moving to the digital format, now there's a tug of war between the force of evil and force of good sides, and whoever wins at the end of each episode gets to influence the next game, and those have a big consequence for the party that lasts the entire episode. And you can also buy advantages and disadvantages on the rolls, so you can kind of influence the outcome of how well you want a character to perform on skill checks or not.
See, that's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty
I gotta
cool.
watch one of these live ones one day. I never get to though.
Oh, it's so much fun. And also we have integrated a new thing when we went off on our own, which is there's a couple of ways that the audience can interact on the live show directly, which is one of the ways is there is a sword called the Godslayer Blade. And in order to charge the Godslayer Blade, which is like, this is like a legendary item, it will insta-kill most, if not all, enemies. And the audience has to vote on whether or not the characters can charge this weapon. And so every time that we've wanted to use it, also to kind of balance the game, we've had our moderators put a poll in chat, and they have decided. And that's happened on a couple of decisions so far.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we love that.
That's super cool, because I played D&D and other, tabletop games constantly when I was younger. And as I got older, I didn't have the time anymore, and your friends move away, and all of a sudden you have no group or anything. But I can kind of relive it through some of these YouTube shows and Twitch shows and stuff that people are playing, which is really cool. And the interaction kind of gives you a little bit more investment there. So,
yeah, for sure.
Speaking of Twitch, I did want to give you an opportunity to talk about your Twitch channel and kind of what kind of content you can find on there.
On my personal Twitch channel?
Mm-hmm.
So right now it's a lot of Elden Ring. But I also do pole dancing on Tuesdays. I do pole dancing for fitness, so that's been really fun to have everybody join me on my journey with. And other than that, I do co-op games with my friends, which is often Dead by Daylight and now Back 4 Blood. And sometimes we'll just do random things like golf or Fiasco, Jackbox game nights. It's a variety channel at its heart. And we actually ran a homebrewed Dungeons and Dragons campaign as well. I think it was 5 episodes long, that one of my girlfriends wrote, called Yelithamore, College in the Sky, and it was so magical. It was an all-female cast, and we had an absolute blast doing it.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. Yeah, I've got to get into Elden Ring. I'm trying to finish up Horizon Forbidden West right now. And I can't juggle too many games. My gaming time's too limited as it is, but I do want to get into Elden Ring at some point. I'm terrible at Souls games, so it is going to be a nightmare for me, but
well, this is my first one, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, have you ever played this type of game before?" When I was asking around if I should start it, and I got some wary looks, but as someone who's never played these types of games before and knows that they're very punishing, I am really enjoying it.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I did get into Bloodborne quite a bit. Bloodborne I played I probably got the farthest than I have in any kind of Souls type game. So I'm hoping, I can, and I've heard this one's a little more, tad more accessible. So hopefully,
I think it definitely is. They provide a lot of ways for people to bridge that gap.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I want to make a point, comment too. 'Cause I haven't really, I've seen most of your poll maneuvers on Instagram that you post, and what I think is what people need to understand is that takes talent. What you've done, and what's so great is you've shown your journey. Like, you're not like one that's just going to show all your successful moves. Like, I've seen you'll show ones where you like will fall a little bit and stuff like that. And I'm so impressed. I'm like that, and this is, Tim will tell you, this is coming from someone that literally could get a head injury walking into a room because I'm that klutzy, and I'm seeing this and I'm like looking just a little snippets. I'm like, oh my God, and then when you'll slide down, but you'll catch yourself. But like, I'm like, so, I mean, that is like impressive stuff
Thank you.
That kind of, that takes that way beyond my athletic skills. I mean, I'm pretty good at sports, but something like that, my balance is not there. But
well, my thing with fitness, one of the reasons I got into it is I need to not know that I'm working out when I'm working out. My previous fitness go-to was bouldering, which is indoor rock climbing without ropes. And when you're doing that, it's like you feel like a video game character. You feel like Tomb Raider, climbing up and down the walls. So same thing with pole dancing. I'm moving my body in a graceful way, and I'm challenging myself, and it doesn't feel like I'm working out, but I know I'm working out because the next 2 days, I feel like I got hit by a truck. So
yeah, like my workout is the best I get is right now lately is either walking my dog or doing the quest. I'll play that Beat Saber game, kind of get some kind of adrenaline going.
Whatever works. I mean, taking the dog for a walk is great. Yeah,
because I'm like you. I cannot, like, if you tell me, like, Tim's good. He runs and he does like full on fun things and runs, and he does like the map where the zombies are chasing him. To me, if I know there's like a hint of exercise in there, I have to really be distracted. But yeah, Tim, what's that zombie thing you do where it's like
there's an app called Zombies Run, and
I've done that.
Yeah. So you know what it's about, but it's basically, for those that don't know, it's an audio drama that's playing in your headphones, and at certain points, randomly, zombies will start chasing you, and kind of hear them go, oh, as they're coming after you, and you have to pick up your pace, and the app can tell whether you're picking up your pace fast enough to outrun them. And then there's like a little mini game in there, like if you outrun them, you get supplies and you can build up your base and stuff. It's really a lot of fun, and it's really, really well done. So, anybody out there that is a runner or wants to run, I highly recommend that app, just to inject a little more fun into it, because as I run, but I hate running. I really do.
Yeah, you do that like good. Are you doing that Halloween run or something, which is good? But
yeah, I did a Michael Myers 5K run from Michael Myers back in November.
So back to, actually, it's funny. So here's a question I think you'll enjoy. This is a question actually my dog Obi decided he wanted to ask, because he wants to know all about Ollie, because because of your cute little videos you do with him and everything, and you guys always take him for adventure. Yeah, and I see he appears sometimes. I saw him in the background. So he wants to know all about him and like all the adventures you take him on.
Well, he's 1 year old. I got him last year, and he's a Chihuahua Terrier mix. I'm petting him behind me right now because I called him over. And he's teeny tiny. He's only 6 pounds, but that means I can take him anywhere. So as soon as he got all of his shots and he was a puppy, I brought him on camping trips. I made him, sit near the campfire, so he got used to that. And I took him on a big, long Utah tour that I did on my own last year, and got him used to sleeping outside and being in the elements. So he's a little adventure pup.
Yeah, I know we would try and take our dog. He'll go to places, but he's a little big, so we can't like fly with him anywhere. He's just a little too big. He's a miniature schnauzer, but he's like 22 pounds, so he's just over the weight. So, but we'll take him to like outdoor restaurants. But we are gonna try and take him camping this summer, because both my wife and I are big campers, so we want to like take him there and get him used to it. But I was like, I remember when I saw you like take him, I'm like, see, that's what I want to do. When Obi gets older, we're gonna make sure he gets out to do that, because Ollie looks like he has fun.
Oh yeah, he doesn't like water. Could not get him to go into creeks with me or swim in a lake, but he'll do everything else.
That's good. I'll have Obi. Does he have his own Instagram? I'll have Obi contact him.
He does not yet.
Okay.
He's not old enough to have his own Instagram.
Oh, okay.
Yet.
Yeah, I haven't done Obi's yet either, but I need to do it. All his dog friends do, but
all right, so here's kind of just a fun question. I'm basically asking what your dream project would be. Unlimited budget, you had all the time you need, all the resources you need. What would be your kind of your dream project?
Ooh. My dream project would be to produce and star in a live action series of the Alana the Lioness Quartet. It's a book series that is about a young girl who disguises herself as her twin brother and goes to be a knight. And she's disguising herself as a boy so she tries to keep up with the boys, and there's magic and intrigue and magical animals, and that story has always been really close to my heart, and there has not yet been an adaptation of it. So if I had unlimited budget, I would be Alana the Lioness, and I would produce that. Kind of like Witcher, like Henry Cavill was such a huge fan of the Witcher games. That would be mine.
So see,
Yeah.
that's what you have to do now, and then you can kickstart it, and we'll help promote it, and then you're on your way.
Yeah, that sounds
I think,
amazing.
we need 20 Kickstarters, 20 supremely successful Kickstarters to get a show like that going, a full medieval show.
But you never know. I mean, the fantasy series are so hot right now. You never know what's going to come out of that. So,
it might be optioned already. I always feel like there's always talk of series getting optioned, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, anytime I have an idea and Tim and I talk about it on the show, it seems to happen. So I don't know. Maybe this will be your good luck, but it'll be for you though. They'll actually let you. You'll be the one that's behind it. So we'll definitely push it for you. We'll give if our 2 cents mean anything in this world.
We'll put it out into the world. There you go.
Yeah. So I guess before we wrap things up, though, we want to what are some of the projects, if you're allowed to divulge? I know sometimes you can't say it, but that you have coming up that you want to share with our listeners.
Well, we have our next campaign coming for the dungeon run, and we can't announce much yet on that, but some cool things are coming. It's going to have 2 dungeon masters, which are 2 of the cast members now of the current campaign. And brand new characters, brand new world, new everything, but will still be a familiar tone and the same storytellers. So yeah, that's very exciting, and it's going to take a lot of work to get it going, but that's my next baby.
Nice. But you guys are all going to be back, right? All of you are going to be part of it. Okay, because I think that's really, as good as Jeff's storytelling is, I think the magic really comes from the cast. So
absolutely.
I'd hate for it to not be like it's something different.
And we're bringing on two new cast members as well to fill out the group.
Oh, great! Oh, cool.
And they have not yet been announced.
Oh, it's a secret stuff. Okay, so we can't
cool.
know all of it. We can just know just a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. So to finish things up, Jessica, I'll give you the floor to kind of share, where our listeners can find all of your content, all your socials and that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, if you look me up on IMDb, Jessica Lynn Parsons, you can find most of the stuff that I've been in. I, like you said, play Xbox Girl on Reckless Comedy, and I'm playing a new character in a new series that we're shooting. So it's over on YouTube. I stream. I'm always on the internet. You can just Google me. You'll find me. I stream on my own channel consistently on Tuesdays. I do pole dancing. Thursday I do gaming. Every Wednesday I play Dungeons and Dragons on the Dungeon Run, and that's all on Twitch. So my own Twitch channel is twitch.tv/ohheyjess. It's OHEYJESS. And then the Dungeon Run is just twitch.tv/the Dungeon Run. And if you want to find me on socials, send me a DM, say what's up. My Instagram is Jessica Lynn Parsons, and my Twitter is Jessica Parsons.
Yes, I will say following you on social media is very fun because you always have great stuff on there.
Thank you.
It's like, and it's all varied too. That's just great. It's like little funny skits. It's videos.
Yeah, it's everything. It's comedy TikToks about Dungeons and Dragons. I love to post little mini diaries of my adventures because I'm very adventurous. I love to go out and explore, especially in California and Utah, and pictures of my cute dog. And clips of stuff I've been in, any commercial that I'm in that comes out, or any other Xbox Girl clips, I put those there.
Yeah, that was great because you actually posted your new acting reel, which is what, and you kind of said, hey, you want to collaborate, and I've always kind of wanted to reach out, and I was glad like you kind of said that because I didn't want to just kind of reach out to you and say, hey, come on the show, and you're like, and who are you, kind of thing. It's like kind of waited for the intro there, like that you did. But yeah, it's so yeah, that's what we were so glad you were able to come on. Of course, we're big fans, so it was great to finally get to talk to you in person.
Same to you.
So, and hopefully, if you ever have any project that you want to promote, just feel free to reach out to us and let us know. Even if you can't make it on, we could make sure we, as you could tell by now, I have a big mouth. I talk a lot, and,
No,
and
not at all.
definitely spread the word for you.
Well,
Yeah.
fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, Brian. So, yep, another great interview, as you guessed. That's par for the course here at Civil Gore. We try to do great interviews because we invite great guests.
We do, and that's the thing. I think we cultivate the guests, and we look for people we know that will make great interviews, and that people we are fans of. So that always helps, I think. So yes, definitely a great interview.
All right, guys. Well, let's get into our feature film this week. This was The Bunker Game. Recently came out on Shudder. I've actually been, Brian, trying to watch a few more of these Shudder films as they're coming out, even the week they come out, just because I always get something out of them.
Yeah.
No matter what I don't even read the reviews sometimes. I'll just click on it and go because I'm always at some level entertained. This one is from 2022. It's from this year. It's directed by Roberto Zazzara, and hopefully I can get through some of these names. Stars Gaia Weiss as Laura, Lorenzo Riquelme as Gregorio, Mark Ryder as Harry, Tudor Istador as Andre, Makita Samba as Marcus, Amina Small as Yasmin, and Serena De Ferrari as Clara. After several mysterious accidents, a live-action role-playing game is interrupted and the players leave the bunker while the staff remains behind to investigate the disappearance of Greg, the mastermind of the game. So this one...
By the way, Tim, I just want to know, you should be pretty familiar with Gaia Weiss, by the way. She did a voice in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. She played a character. And she was also on Vikings with Mo Dunford.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, yeah, I played a lot of them.
And she was on Outlander, apparently. She was on Outlander, so Ken should weigh in. See what his performance was. Yeah, so she's been in a couple of things that we saw.
Well, this one I was really intrigued by the premise because now I've never done any live action role playing. I've done plenty of tabletop role playing, Dungeons and Dragons and that kind of thing, and played multiple pencil and paper tabletop games when I was younger, high school days. We used to play Call of Cthulhu, we played Shadowrun, we played Vampire the Masquerade, we played the Star Wars role playing game on top of D&D. So that was just a few of the ones. There was probably more in there that I forgot.
Did you play the original Marvel Superheroes one? Do you remember that one?
No, I never got to play that one.
Oh my god, that was my favorite because the character creation. I would spend like days of just doing that because I'd love like creating the superheroes and just rolling to get all their points and everything. That was kind of cool.
Yeah. So this one really, really intrigued me, and this one involves LARPing, which is live action role playing, like we said, and it's. I guess you could almost call it I almost want to call it like dinner theater. I think they even describe it in the movie at one point as dinner theater, but it's where, you're actually, instead of kind of role playing as a kind of a third person character, you're actually physically embodying that character. So you're physically embodying a role.
Perfect example is anyone that's seen the movie Role Models with Paul Rudd in it, where he befriends the kid that played McLovin. And he was in that LARPing thing with Jolo Trujillo, which that's still one of my favorite movies. We won't get into that. We'll be talking for hours on it. But yeah, that was like a LARPing thing that they did where they totally got into full, characters where, with the full regalia, and they had teams, and every, so often, I guess they had this, at the end of their LARPing season, they'd have this battle royale, and of course, Ken Jeong played the king, who was like a priceless Ken Jeong performance, of course. But yeah, so that's what you picture. It's almost like you blend the two things in. You blend like cosplaying in mixed with like a role playing that you would play with a regular role playing game. So it's best of both worlds, I guess.
Yeah, and this one's super elaborate. Like when you start the movie, you don't know. Here, I'm going to right now just go ahead and say one of my problems with the movie before we even get too far into it.
Yeah.
So in the description, you're told this is a live action role playing game, and all the like descriptions on Shudder and everything. I thought the movie might have worked better if you knew that from the from the start, from the description, but the movie makes you believe that this is a period piece in some kind of alternate history, because it starts off kind of explaining what happened in this alternate version of World War II, where Hitler used nuclear weapons, and there's basically people are now living in bunkers underground, and they're trying to resurrect the Fourth Reich, and there's this whole history backstory that they start the movie off with, and then you're taken right into the bunker, and you have no clue that this is a role-playing game. It's presented as if this is real, but you know from the description that it's a role-playing game. You don't find out in the movie that it's a role-playing game until almost half an hour in.
Right, and you almost feel you're like, and when you're watching, I'm like, did I watch the right movie?
Yeah.
Now, granted,
so
if they didn't say that and I was watching this, I think it would have had a bigger impact. But like, since it says it in the description, and I don't know if that's the fault of the marketing team or whatever, but like, they should have never said that in the description. They should have just said like people trapped in a bunker experiences this, because, and if you think about it, the role playing element of it, that whole thing ends up becoming not even the plot. I mean, it's weird. Yeah,
so that was my biggest complaint with the movie, is either tell everybody it's a role-playing game thing up front and give us some more history and backstory behind that part of it, or keep it secret and let that be the surprise, in the first act of the movie, that, oh my God, this is actually a role-playing game. This isn't a real period piece. But instead, they kind of straddled the line, and they kind of told us through the marketing that it's a role-playing game, and then they don't tell us till a third of the way in the movie, and it loses all of take impact.
And it's weird because it looks like the movie was made to surprise you that way, but yet in the description they take that surprise away for you.
Yeah, I don't know. I meant to watch the trailer before we recorded to see if it was hinted at in the trailer, because if they kept it hidden in the trailer, then I have to believe that it's just a bad Shudder description.
And I think, I personally, though, that think about, where the movie ends up going, I think that's supposedly the surprise that they really want. But I'm like, by that point already, you're just like, what's the difference at this point? It's like,
yeah.
And the thing is, it's funny because Tim and I were talking earlier with, like, other than that, really, we're not really sure why this movie didn't stick with us. I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's definitely got all the parts. It's just the execution of it was off. And again, it very well could be that description threw us off from the beginning, and now it was hard to kind of suck you in, because when I went into watching this, I was like, and I'm seeing it, it's going on. I'm like, okay, when are they going to reveal that it's the LARPing game? Because that's in the description. So when's that going to be revealed? And like, is it going to be? And it seems like they were purposely waiting as it's to fool the audience. So I'm like, well, but you didn't fool me because you said it was going to be. So I'm expecting this.
Well, we're kind of getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, because just kind of an overarching, I'll give you the overarching plot is, so they're doing this elaborate kind of Nazi theme, like alt Nazi themed thing, where everybody's in this bunker and they're all in period costume. I think it actually takes place in the 50s, not the 40s, if you look at the timeline that they show at the very beginning. So it's like an alternate 1950s. But they're all in period costume and they're acting out. I mean, there's no hint that there's a game involved. Like, they're acting out. There's a guy that's speaking out against the Reich, and so he gets taken up there and executed. I mean, there's this whole.
Well, yeah, because they're trying to, like, I guess, like, they're trying to make the breed the perfect specimens kind of thing, and he kind of, like, I guess, like, randomized it. He, like, went against what they wanted and tried to randomize people when people were supposedly selected to do it. So there's an interesting plot at that point going on, but that really, again, that's just to basically help reveal the LARPing in the end.
Yeah. And so what happens is there's a freak power outage, and so That's when you find out that this is all a LARPing thing, and they have to basically get all the players out so they can figure out what's going on. And that's what drives the second half of the movie, where the staff is trying to investigate, okay, why did the power outage and all this stuff, and that's when you start seeing supernatural things go on. The problem is again, another problem I have with this movie is if you're going to have such a cool premise of this whole elaborate LARP, I mean, this would be cool. Like in real life, I was thinking, oh my God, I would totally love to do this. Like if this was like a 2 or 3 day thing where you had to go like live and you had to stay in character the whole time, I think it'd be amazing. That would be really super cool. And so I really like that aspect of it. But if that's not going to drive the plot, it doesn't really. In other words, you could have taken the second half of this movie and removed the LARP stuff and still kind of made the same movie.
Yeah, and that I think that's what, and it's a short movie. It's only like 92 minutes. So it's like, so think about it, you're going to remove that whole, like, the whole LARPing element to it. You probably don't have even a full movie, but they could have expanded on that part rather than the whole thing. Like, it could have totally been, like, well, or they could have done it, like, totally flat out told you it was a LARP from the first scene, and then just, because then you'd still be interested to see, okay, well, where is this going to go? But see, you know, your first thing is, oh, when are they going to reveal the LARP, which it takes like the first 25 minutes of the movie. So you're already kind of out of it when it finally, this LARP reveal, and they reveal it in like a silly kind of a way, too.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, that's why I think they could have, if they had spent that first 20 minutes of you, like, stating up front this is a LARP thing, I would have been more invested in the characters and stuff, because I would have been like, oh, okay, so this is the staff.
Yeah.
And these are the ones that are going to be our main characters. I mean, you kind of know they're the main characters because they're focused on in the beginning, but you don't know, like, you don't know they're staff people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it hasn't been revealed in the movie that it's a LARP yet. So I think it would have been interesting to find out more about, like, how do these players get to, you know, you could have had the scene where, like, what are you doing this weekend? Oh man, there's this cool game we're playing where you have to live in this bunker and blah, blah, blah. Like, all that would have been interesting to me. And it might have made me more invested in the characters. But this kind of straddling the fence thing, I just never invested in him. And the other thing I didn't really note, it kind of took me out of the movie is, and I've never done a LARP thing, so I can't speak from authority on this. But, you know, there's scenes in the movie where there's like only 2 characters talking to each other. And I guess you could make the argument that they would stay in character the whole time, but it just doesn't feel, it never feels like they're actually playing a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I guess like, you know, in real life, I guess if you were really committed to it and playing your character, it wouldn't seem like a game if you just happened upon 2 people in a room. But there's some stuff that they do that I'm like, I don't know if that would be, like, I don't know that you would stay in character to that degree, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and there's like, you know, there's like, you know, there's one guy that like kind of takes, you know, like the typical guy that's so into it that you're like not even sure if he's like knows it's a LARP at some level, but even that doesn't pay off as well as it should. And I mean, you know, and I think part of the problem is that like the second, let's say the second part of the movie where, you know, it's not a LARP anymore. Now they're faced with what they're faced with. Because I don't want to give a spoiler away. It's still too new. Whatever. But they're basically their next challenge of what they have to go through. I don't think it's a plot that we've kind of seen in other movies before. And so you're already kind of like, okay, all right. So you're kind of still like processing the fact that, like, why did it take so long to let you know it was the LARP? And now you got this plot that's really like, so that it's hard to be invested in it by that anymore. And I think another problem is it's, you know, okay, if you spend a half hour developing characters for a movie, normally that pays off because then you're invested in them. You care what happens to them. In this, they spend 25 minutes developing in what the character they're pretending to be.
Yes.
So then by the time when you want to be invested in them, you don't care about any of them. Even the one you're supposed to care about, you're only like slightly care about at this point.
Yeah, because you're more invested in their pretend character,
right,
than their actual person.
Yeah, and now you've taken that away, And it's funny because it's like, yeah, and even though we know it's the pretend character, like, I think if they would have, like, I don't know if somehow, like, they never, like, if, like, the audience knew it was a LARP, but the characters didn't somehow. I was expecting it was going to be a reveal. I don't know. It just seemed like you know what it was? I was constantly distracted by thinking of too many things going on in this movie than just watching the movie. And that's
this might have worked better if it just had not been a LARP. This was an actual period alternate history piece that happened to have a supernatural thing, and there is no LARP thing.
Yeah, like the LARP, if you think about it, neither one really needed to be, like, neither part of that ended up needing to be, like, it didn't blend together. It was like...
You should have had one or the other.
Like, you ever, you know, an analogy I want to make is, like, you ever break a cup and it kind of breaks in two even pieces, so you think, and then when you put it together, there's just, like, a little bit of crack that doesn't fit, and there's a little spot, and you're like, oh, I just still can't use it now because that little piece is somewhere in the sink. And I say that from experience because I break cups all the time. That's what this movie is like to me. It, like, the two parts just don't go together good enough to make it work.
It actually reminds me of a book I just read, and I forgot to put in the first chop, so maybe this is a good time to talk about it. So it's House by the Cemetery by John Everson, and it's this sounds like a me and you book, Brian. So it's about these people that are going to renovate this house to turn it into a haunted attraction.
Oh, and a dream.
And the house used to be the site of where a bunch of Satanists did their satanic rituals and stuff. And that's kind of known around the town. So they're trying to remodel this house to make it a haunt. You then have this couple of nosy paranormal investigators that don't want them messing with it because they feel like the house is demonic. And so they're trying to, like, sabotage it. And there's a whole group of characters that you get to know. And I'm not going to give away the plot because there's a big plot of it, but
is it a LARP? No, like
it's not a LARP, but it reminded me. That's why it reminded me of this book, because in that book, which I really enjoyed, you kind of care about the characters first, and then when the stuff starts happening to this haunted attraction that they've built, there's kind of like some emotional investment in what goes on and what happens, and that's what I thought was missing in this movie. Was if they had kind of modeled it in the same way that this book played out, you would have gotten to know these characters and been really invested, so that by the second half, you would have had that payoff. But I think the movie either needed to be focused on one thing and stay within its confined length, or it needed to have more runtime or something to be able to flesh those characters out, because at 90 minutes it straddled the fence too much, and it didn't play out. Now I will say, like I was telling Brian before we actually started recording, the acting's fine, the directing's fine, the cinematography's fine. Like, there's nothing about this I can point to this movie and go, that part sucked. There's nothing about this movie that I felt like I was always constantly on the verge, feeling like, oh, this could be awesome. Like, I was constantly on the verge, and it just never got there. And it was kind of so frustrating to see this concept realized, and it's not quite ever get there.
Yeah, and it's not that I didn't enjoy it. It just, I think I think this one I ended up looking at because I knew we were going to do it for this is the one I kind of fell into that trap maybe of just trying to kind of analyze it too much. But I mean, I think all of our points are backed up. I think a lot of people would probably agree. Sadly, I haven't seen very many good reviews on it. But I mean, I think the acting was actually the strongest part of it. I think it was like, can you imagine if this was done by like a really bad cast? I mean, this could have been one of those like where you're like, I can't even watch this anymore. But the fact of the matter is that I think the cast was it was so strong that it kind of made it definitely watchable and enjoyable to some degree. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to recommend it 100% though, because of the little bit of flaws that we found. But
yeah, I thought the whole setting itself was cool. I used to play they used to play the Fallout video games where it's post-apocalyptic and you live in a bunker, and You know, it just
He
had
lives
that-
in a lair. Sorry, I couldn't do.
It kind of had that feel of it for me, though. It kind of felt like kind of that Fallout vibe to it. I just love that kind of alternate history. I'm actually playing a game right now called Iron Harvest that takes place in it's a real-time strategy game, but it takes place in an alternate 1920s, so where they have mechs. So it's everything's like old-fashioned, like 1920s war, but with like steam powered mechs and stuff. Is really, really cool. I just love that kind of alternate history stuff. Yeah, it's fun. But yeah, this one just kind of missed the mark for me, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah.
I thought it had a great premise, and I would love to do this in real life. I wonder if there are any that are this elaborate.
I'm sure there's got to be some kind. I mean, well, you know what? It's funny you said that. Of course, there's one that's like this. We've been criticizing it nonstop in our Slack group, which is the Holocron, the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel. Essentially, is a 2-day LARP experience because you're supposed to get into the characters.
True.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
You're just not like made to be a specific character. That's where the difference is. You're a tourist on there and you're supposed to get in there. But we're close. That's kind of what it's like.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I mean, we could probably get into I'm sure there's something like that out there somewhere. If that exists, now I'm sure there's we should look into that. Or if anyone heard of one, definitely, especially our international listeners. I can see like the U.S. not doing that right now.
there was I know there and I've never done it. It's at Gen Con because it's like an upcharge and you got to have reservations and stuff. But they do have a live action dungeon crawl. And they actually have puzzles and like you're actually going through like a dungeon that they built. Not not huge, but they're changing rooms out and stuff and sets and things. I thought that was a cool idea. But and you have to
there's
play
one
a
like
character.
that. There's something in the city that's called Sleep No More. It's kind of like a thing like that's like an interactive theater kind of thing where you walk through, but you just different each time. You can end up on a different floor. Yeah, it's kind of like that, but. I mean, really, we can't really go much more into this movie without giving specific spoilers. But I mean, definitely give it a watch. I mean, when I say I don't recommend it 100%, meaning like I can't give it like say, oh my god, it was amazing because of, that would not be, we definitely have its things wrong with it. But I definitely think if you have Shudder. Why not watch it? Give it a whirl. I mean, maybe we missed the mark. Maybe Tim and I, it was one of these things where it's like our mentality going into it could have been part of the problem. But I mean, I still think these problems exist. I just don't know if it would have affected us if maybe we didn't read the synopsis.
Yeah.
But then again, the synopsis I picked because of the match with our interview, because of our LARPing.
It's a catch-22.
And she does cosplaying and role play. So so yeah, you're right, a catch-22. But I did find a good beer.
Okay.
Moving on to that,
right. Maybe the beer will be better. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called LARP Lager, and it's it's from North Park Beer Company, San Diego, California. It's only 5%, so it's not that heavy. It says nothing works up a thirst quite like an intense campaign of defending the realm from an onslaught of giant spiders and rock goblins with your foam battle axe and buckler. What is a buckler? Do you
shield. It's like a small
shield.
Yeah.
That's okay. See, I knew Tim was no. I thought it said Buckner first, and I'm like, oh, so you have a first baseman that hobbled and gives away the World Series? I don't know. No, Buckler. It says this crispy elixir will surely provide the much-needed refreshment a hero like you deserves. Tim, see? That's like when you play your games. You got your buckler and you're having this beer. It says the noblest of hops combined with the most triumphant assortment of fine malts reward your most valiant deeds. You've slayed the dragon, now slay your thirst. Sounds like a commercial I did for this beer.
Oh, I mean, I bet they make a killing off that if they do it at bring it to Renaissance festivals and stuff.
Oh yeah, they probably love that. Like, imagine a LARP lager.
Yeah. All right, so
what a good question we got coming up here for the fan topic foo. It's a very easy one for me, but still.
Yeah. Cody comes through with another great question, and this one is this was a fun one, non-horror related. What is your favorite Tarantino movie?
Do you want me to go first?
Go first. Go for it.
Not even a question. I love them all, but if I had to pick a favorite, every time it's gonna be Reservoir Dogs. I saw that movie first when it first came out in the theater, and then a couple days later, I saw it 4 days straight. It was at the the local art theater, and I could get in for $2 because it was right across from our college. And I was just obsessed with that movie. At one point, I could probably recite the entire script from memory. I had watched that so many times. I had the soundtrack to it. I loved everything about it. It was my of course, it was the world's really introduction to Tarantino. And some of the actors. I mean, think of that. There's some people that are probably. I mean, I know it was an actor well before that, but like people have may have first discovered Harvey Keitel from that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve Buscemi. I mean, of course got well known from that. And I just think it was like just something about that. Like when I saw that movie, I'm like, not only did I love this movie, I'm like, this director is my kind of director. I can't wait to see what he does next. And of course, he has not disappointed. He keeps coming out with great movies. Pretty much his movies, that's like when they're on, I rarely will turn it off unless I literally have to go somewhere. Like same with Inglourious Bastards. Oh my God, I cannot. That movie is on. It always stays on because I love that movie too. But yeah, of course, what movie? What was there a bad Tarantino movie? I don't think there was one. I mean, I haven't seen. I will say I haven't seen the last. The one in. Oh my God, I can't think of it.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yes, thank you. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I have not seen it
that
yet. Because I'm waiting. Julie and I need time. We both want to watch it, so we just haven't had time to sit down and watch it. But yeah, I mean, hands down for me, Reservoir Dogs every time.
Well, I want you to picture it's 1994. I'm at NC State College, and they're doing movies on campus. They actually had their own little movie theater there. And my roommate said, hey, do you want to go see this movie called Pulp Fiction? And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I knew nothing about it. So we go to the campus theater to watch this thing. And I am completely enthralled. Completely enthralled. I'd never seen anything like it. Like it was, and I was a movie fan, but I had not seen anything like that before. So I was just completely blown away by it. And we walk out of the theater, and I asked my roommate, so what did you think? And he was like, oh, I hated it. I hated it.
What?
And I'm like, you hated it? Why? And he said, oh, because did you see the fonts they used? This guy was a graphic design major. And he literally, the whole entire movie, nitpicked the fonts they used.
Why didn't you just watch the opening credits and then leave?
Yeah, the design, the whole design, like that was his big flaw with the movie was, this fonts
he'd
are
hate
so
that Amityville
terrible.
Vanishing Point.
Yeah,
I'd love
so
for him to watch that.
the whole movie he hated because of the graphic design. So, and I was completely blown away. So Pulp Fiction would be the easy answer, but that's not my favorite Tarantino movie. No, my favorite Tarantino movie is Reservoir Dogs. Because that's the first one I saw. And when you said that, Brian, I was like, Brian's going to think I'm going to say Pulp Fiction, but I'm not. Now, I love Pulp Fiction, don't get me wrong. But yeah, Reservoir Dogs was the first Tarantino movie I ever saw. Actually, you know what? I take that back. I may have actually seen Pulp Fiction first and then went back and watched Reservoir Dogs afterwards. In fact, that's probably what happened. In fact, I almost know that's what happened because I think the first time I'd ever heard of Tarantino was Pulp Fiction. But it was like when I discovered Reservoir Dogs, like I watched that movie over and over and over. I had the DVD. I watched it all the time. I could quote the entire diner scene. I mean, everything. So yeah, Pulp Fiction I love, but not at the same level. Like I kind of like. It's kind of like I almost discovered them backwards. Most people would have seen Reservoir Dogs first. I discovered them backwards, but I ended up liking Reservoir Dogs more. And it's kind of, it's a little more raw. It's a little more, you could tell you could see how Pulp Fiction arose out of it.
Oh my God. Yeah. 100%.
It's totally clear, but I liked it's almost like you like an artist's earlier stuff. Like it's kind of nice to see the rawness of what Pulp Fiction would become before it became Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, right. Seriously. And it's funny, too, because at one point, I mean, Reservoir Dogs was not just, like, my favorite Tarantino movie. At one point, next to the Star Wars films, I mean, that was one of my favorite movie of, like, ever at one point. It was, like, at the top of the list. And, like, it's like because, the characters were so unique at the time, and it's like, I felt like it was, like, something like this. You knew... You just sensed like this is something special. Pay attention to this. This is the beginning of something, and it was because look at the career Tarantino has had. I mean, he became how someone says, "Oh, it's a Tarantino film." or it's a very Tarantino-esque. When
Yeah.
you get that kind of talk, you know you're something special. So, and his films are event films now. So, I mean, that, and, it all started, like, I wonder how many people don't even realize Reservoir Dogs exists,
Yeah,
because they're so used
and
to
I
his more mainstream.
Like, I still quote that movie, like, anytime anytime we have tacos, I'm typically going to say, I'm hungry, let's go get a taco. That's just like an automatic reflex. So, and anytime I'm thinking about tips, like the back of my mind, I'm thinking of the entire tip scene.
Yeah, when you can't ever hear Stuck in the Middle with You and not think of Michael Madsen. There's just certain things that Reservoir Dogs, and not to sound like so like over dramatic and cheesy here, but that's a movie that literally will change your life, because there would be things now that like that's all you think of.
Yeah.
And or here's another one too. It's like from Stephen Wright's like line in there when he goes, because I have to say it this way now, because he goes, when he's like, Big Daddy Bodine's truck, the behemoth. Now he says, so every time I see behemoth, I say the behemoth, because that's the way he said it in that movie.
Yeah, I don't know what. It's funny that now I love Inglourious Bastards.
Oh, me too.
I've never seen Jackie Brown.
Really? Oh, that's been on cable a lot too. That's another great one.
Yeah, and it's on HBO Max, and that's a lot of people's like second favorite after Pulp Fiction. But I've never seen Jackie Brown. I need to rectify that, because that's the
we almost need to do. I would love to do one time like a limited edition podcast where we just go through all the Tarantino films.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I think that would be a fun side, like little mini podcast side thing.
It's literally the only Tarantino movie I haven't seen.
Oh my god! And it's one of course, there's every one of his is in the monolith. Even the ones before I see it, it just as soon as it's out, boom, going to the monolith. So yeah, that was a great question, Cody. And she knows us well, because she knows we discuss this thing, so that she know that would be a good question.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to do. Yeah, we should almost like think about doing that at some point. I mean, it's definitely not horror related, really. I mean, well, obviously he has a little bit of horror in his repertoire there, but I think we need to do. I would love to do that as a side like mini podcast thing.
Now, if we had Patreon, that would totally be a Patreon perk.
Oh yeah,
It'd be our full Tarantino mini podcast.
Yes. Oh well, there we go. Now we're cooking with the possible Patreon. We actually have a plan if we go forth with it.
But yes, that was a great question. So we will be back here next week. Not sure exactly what's on tap, but we'll have something good cooked up. Got some.
We always do.
Have some hopefully some good interviews coming up in the works. So we will see you back here soon.
All right.